When Dhoni hit that six to win the match, it was nearly like the whole of India lifted with that six.
Study, become a doctor or something, or an accountant, then we know you're going to be okay, So, yeah, this was me kind of going against the grain.
Ricky Ponting was a rough diamond when he first came on the scene.
Welcome to Cricket Inside Out. We are joined by two phenomenal guests this week, making his debut on the show all the way from Perth, Western Australia. It's Tom Moody and Pommie Mbangwa. Happy birthday.
To me, yes, thank you very much. Yes, I forget all the time that it's my birthday. I genuinely do. So yeah, thanks.
So we're making the guy work on his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Pommie. You've kept that very, very quiet.
You understand, don't you, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to stop counting after a certain number.
I don't know if I'm at that stage yet, but I did stop counting some time ago. Yeah. Thanks, Elma. You reminded me. And I can remind the kids as well, and maybe get a present or two and get spoiled.
I would milk the occasion for all it's worth. It's not often you have a birthday in level 3 lockdown, which is what we are in South Africa. Tom Moody, how are things in Australia, particularly your side of town?
Yeah, in Perth, Western Australia, from where I live and my home has been for many, many years, we've been very fortunate. We're slowly getting back to something that is close to normality. Interesting enough, the government recently, the local government recently announced that when football is played at Optus Stadium, which is our new stadium here in Western Australia that has a capacity of 60,000, that 30,000 people can go along to it. So that's how far we've gone down the road in recovery. But as everyone is aware, we need to continue to keep doing the right things. Otherwise, we'll be back to square one.
Now, usually on people's birthdays, we tend to go dig up photos we have with them. On this show, we're going to rewind even further. We're going to rewind to Pommie's international debut. Pommie, tell us about 1996, a big year for you.
1996, I remember it well. It's a very proud moment for me because from quite young, I sort of decided I was going to try and play for Zimbabwe. Not too many in terms of role models in trying to get there. So not necessarily trying to emulate anyone, but trying to kind of venture into professional cricket in an age where it wasn't fashionable. And if I think of my folks, they didn't have a clue at what I was trying to do. And it wasn't advisable, as it were, because what they would have said, and they did a few times back then, is to say, hey, study, become a doctor or something, or an accountant, then we know you're going to be okay, So, yeah, this was me kind of going against the grain. So when 1996 came about and I went to Faisalabad and managed to play in that test match, got selected to play in that test match. It was the second, I think, of the series. We only played 2 test matches in Pakistan. And yeah, getting on the field was incredibly enjoyable. And I still remember getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. It is still my proudest moment, as it were. So yeah, 100%.
Every single debut is special, but some debuts stick in our memories for even longer. Oftentimes, particularly when it's a player that we didn't have many other memories to attach to the name. Bob Massey is probably one of those guys who made a standout debut this week in 1972, taking 16 wickets on his test debut, the 4th best match haul in history. Also from Perth, so he's got something in common with you, Mr. Moody. Tell us about the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob Massey, I remember him not so much as the cricketer, because he's a fair bit older than me, but more so the coach around the state squad. He spent a lot of time around the Western Australian squad, sort of teaching the art of swing bowling, which was really his main trump. Hence his incredible success in the UK, where he swung the ball around corners. The interesting thing about that 16-wicket haul on debut was the number of overs that he bowled. He bowled something like nearly 34 overs in the first innings, and then had to back that up with another, I think it was around 27 overs in the second innings. So a huge number of overs, but he got well rewarded with 16 wickets. A lovely guy, gentle nature, but interesting enough, Bob Massey, after that incredible debut, he sort of faded into the distance. We didn't see a lot of him in international cricket. We saw him in first-class cricket playing for Western Australia for a period of time, but then again, he lost his position in first-class cricket. So he was like one of those one-hit wonders in pop music, sort of brilliant one release, but then faded into the distance.
Sadly so. Pommie Mbangwa, tell me about the standout debuts that you've witnessed over the years, the ones that come to mind?
You speak, obviously, these days, I speak in capacity as a commentator. And in thinking about that, I go to Kyle Abbott to Supersport Park. South Africa against Pakistan comes into the side as a replacement, and if I'm not mistaken, it comes in for Jacques Kallis, who's injured, and so that would have been a case of wait right up until the last bit to see if Jacques Kallis can play. Whichever team Jacques Kallis would play for, that's what would happen, because you want him in your side. Anyway, he gets to play, and he doesn't even take the new ball. I think in that test match are Steyn and Philander. I can't remember if Morne Morkel is in that test match as well, but as you know, South Africa are a side who just have lots and lots of fast bowlers to choose from. So I think he comes on second change, if that, and for his 7 in the first innings, he must have bowled not too many more than 10 overs, in contrast to what Tom was just talking about with Bob Massey, who bowled a lot of overs in order to get his wickets. But he bowled, I think, 10 overs and might be maybe just slightly less than 12 overs, and got 7 for 30 or something like that. And the amazing thing in that game, and it just kept running through Pakistan, nick off, whatever it was, just got them out. But in the second innings, he couldn't buy a wicket. He didn't get 10 in that game, and he bowled well again, but they couldn't get a bat on him. All the others got the wickets, and I think he got 2 So yeah, I remember, I don't know why it sticks out in my head, but perhaps it's because you can bowl really well, and sometimes you find the edges and you get wickets, and you can bowl really well another time and not get what you deserve or what people think you probably should. So 7 in one and 2 in the other, you'd be right in for 10, wouldn't you, if you got 7 in one? Well, he didn't.
Anyone else we should add to our list of standout debutants, Pommie?
Yeah, I think there's someone we should add, because I had him as second. I know I said Kyle Abbott because he did come to mind, really. But Tom was there, and Tom, you will remember this. I'm sure anyone who was there would be hard pressed, and something would be wrong with them if they forgot what happened at Adelaide. And I'll get mixed up with the years. 2013, I think it was.
2012.
And 2012, right, there you go, 2012, and it's Faf du Plessis making a debut for South Africa in Test match cricket. He obviously went on to become captain, but the characteristics that he showed in that Test match perhaps are those that have, some of those that have made him a really good captain for South Africa. Tom, you want to share a bit here on, well, first of all, the slowest 100, or when I say slowest 100, it was intentional, wasn't it?
Oh, look, absolutely. I think, a lot of people need to understand the context of that game. South Africa were totally out of that game and were losing that Test match. And Faf du Plessis in the first innings got a 78, so he was only just shy, 22 shy of his 100 in the first innings. And in the second innings, where South Africa had their backs against the wall, Faf du Plessis batted for guess how many balls, Pommie? 376
I remember,
balls.
yeah.
I can start. I'm still, going through it in my head because obviously you try to remain neutral as a commentator, but my God, he couldn't get out. But his performance to secure the draw, I thought was a huge, significant individual performance. It showed enormous character and leadership of a guy, playing in his very first test.
Yeah, Tom, something else to remember is when you look at a team like that and a time to try and save a game, it's not to the debutant that you will look, because this is a team with the likes of A.B. de Villiers and Jacques Callis and Hashim Amla. So those are the guys you expect are going to do the job and get the team out of trouble. And yet, it was all those guys who batted around Faf du Plessis. And essentially, I mean, if the first innings didn't make him, it looked accomplished, looked like a guy who knew what he was doing. And I guess like you were talking about before, about making a debut, this guy was in decent enough form and he'd been around the international scene enough with one-day cricket. And so now, when he turned up out there, it wasn't overawing because he kind of knew the environment. And like you said before as well, second home. 78 miss out. The pressure that Elma is talking about, I reckon batsmen will have more pressure if you had a chance to get to 100 and you didn't, and now you have a second go. And not too many get runs first innings and second innings. He went even better and got 100, which would have meant the world to him, and it certainly set him up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for sharing that great insight. Next up, in our Hall of Fame feature, this is probably not going to surprise you, Tom Moody. We are taking a closer look at Ricky Thomas Ponting, inducted in the ICC Hall of Fame in 2018. Considered the most successful captain in international cricket history, 67.91% success rate. The reason it won't be a surprise to Tom that we are digging this one out of the archives is because that his mate tweeted the other day, "Can't believe it's been 21 years since the 99 World Cup final, the highlight of my career to that point. It finished with me on Tom Moody Cricket's shoulders in the middle of Lords singing the team song. An amazing experience. We had to find an excuse to ask you for your side of the story because your little response on Twitter was very brief."
Yeah, always. Well, you've only got so many characters, haven't you, on Twitter? Yeah, look, it's amazing. Firstly, gosh, it was that long ago. That's quite disturbing, isn't it? That's 21 years ago.
Yeah, it is to me too.
It certainly is. But yeah, my side of the story is, yeah, look, we obviously beat Pakistan in that final. We beat them convincingly. Therefore, we had an early finish. As we do, like most teams do, you celebrate in the rooms, and family and friends and everyone else comes in to enjoy that success. But then there's a moment where the team have their private moment, and traditionally in Australian cricket we sing the team song. And Ricky Ponting was at the time the custodian of that owned the song, and he ran the song from the team, and he nominates basically where you sing the song, and you can sing it from the team bus to the dressing room to on the ground. But he decided that we're going to do it right on the wicket that we won the World Cup in 1999, and it was my idea. Halfway, as we were making our way halfway across the ground at Lords, that I said to Punter, I said, "Look, mate, how about you do it on my shoulders? Let's make it a significant moment for everyone." So obviously me standing at nearly 6'7" with Ponting on my shoulders as well, he was nearly like a light tower bellowing the team song as we obviously joined in with him. And I did joke the fact that my back's never been the same because, you know, I was jumping up and down with him on top of me. It wasn't the smartest move, but a lot of fun, a lot of great memories.
So what's crazy when you start looking at his stats, I mean, there are so many impressive things on this list. He won the Alan Border Medal the most number of times, and then later tied with Michael Clarke. Most international runs by an Australian across formats, 71 centuries in his career, second overall behind Tendulkar, second to Graham Smith for most test wins as a captain. Pommie, tell me about Ricky Ponting and that era of Australian cricket and having to face them?
So I'll take you back, actually. I remember Ricky Ponting coming to Zimbabwe as a youngster in a Tasmania team that had David Boone, Rod Tucker. I'll go with one more, maybe Divenuto. I'm guessing a little bit, but I remember him. I remember Dave Boone. I remember Rod Tucker were in that team, and he was this youngster with a goatee beard and quite an aggressive guy. A totally different guy to the man he is now, actually. And take this with a pinch of salt because it's a long time ago, and the impression you get when you play against a guy and you don't know him might be totally different to what you come across later, as happened actually, because now seems a more gentle and calculated guy than he seemed at the time. But what wasn't in question was the guy's talent. I mean, turned up in the side that's got veterans really in it. When I say veterans, we knew all the other names, we knew who all the other guys were, but we didn't know who this guy was. And smashed it, didn't get too many runs, but had a temper on him. I remember him walking off the field, having got out pulling, and smashing the change room door, and we could hear him from on the field, that he was furious about what had happened and having not got the runs. Subsequent, and I don't just put that as a story, fun story, whatever, but think about his pull shot, whatever format you want to talk about, just about flawless. He won, and you can ask any bowler all around the world, he put them around the park.
And he's hit that, Miles. That is another terrific hit.
There's another pull shot. Has he found the gap? He has.
Beautifully timed and picked up by Ponting.
For me, what stands out with him is no game stood still with Ricky Ponting at the crease. When he came in, there was an effect on the game. I think that's how he is different to absolutely everybody else. There are others who are like that, but because we're talking about Ricky Ponting, I think that is the one feature in his game. Whatever the game, whatever the format, that's what he did. And you throw on top of that those statistics that you're talking about with regard to captaincy, and then also throw on top of that, and maybe that was just before he became captain, but his fielding, just his getting around the park to catch, to run people out, to stop singles. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal as a cricketer, and no doubt a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, look, I'll sort of echo, obviously, that. And the interesting part, which I'll just add to, is that, Ricky Ponting was a rough diamond when he first came on the scene, and he got himself into trouble. There was some quite well-publicised trouble, but how I measure a man is how they evolve as a person. And Ricky Ponting has made mistakes like we all have over time, but he has learnt from those mistakes, and now he's one of the most respected former Australian captains. He's now one of the most respected pundits in the media. He's now one of the most respected coaches when he's mentoring or coaching around the world. So that, I think, tells you a lot about the person and his capacity to grow and want to become the best he possibly can be. We all know what he was as a player. He was simply a match winner, one of those players that would have a significant shift on matches when he was either in the field or had the bat in the hand. Someone I think that everyone looks back on and admires his incredible talent.
That is Ponting at his best. What a way to bring up his 100. Magnificent cover drive, and yet another 100 for the Australian captain when it matters.
One story that it does stand out for me is when he was in the Australian Academy before he even played first-class cricket. Rod Marsh was head of the academy, the former Australian wicketkeeper batsman, he said, I'll never forget him saying this. He said to me and a couple of other people that was in my company that he's never seen a batsman pick length as quick as what Ricky Ponting does. And this is when he was a 16-year-old kid. And Rod Marsh said at that point, this kid's going to be a superstar.
Wow. Amazing. Absolutely standout talent from the start. We're moving on to our cricket wish list, which is something we started last week with our friends at booking.com. All of us are staying home, staying safe, but we are looking forward to getting on the move again. I know cricket commentators aren't used to spending winters at home, and we're all, I'm sure, excited about seeing the cricketing world with our own eyes again someday soon. Pommie, let's start with you. Where was your favorite cricket venue to play and then later to commentate? You can pick two. You don't have to commit to one for both.
Okay, well, my favorite destination is the West Indies. Absolutely no doubt about that. Grenada as a place, so not necessarily to play at anything, but just because it's a cricket destination. Enjoyed the crowds there, absolutely fantastic. And Jamaica. So those, I mean, the West Indies is, you could go all around the grounds, but I would pick those as a destination. West Indies is one team, so I'm sure I can sort of go around the islands. Yeah, I wouldn't go too far away from that, actually.
The island guy. Tom Moody, favorite cricket venue to play and then to commentate? So you're allowed to have two different ones on this?
For me, it's hard to go past Lords. I've been fortunate enough to have won, obviously, a World Cup there, but also some domestic trophies there when I played county cricket. But just Lords has got that unique feel about it being the beginning. It's got incredible sort of atmosphere and history that's attached to it. So that, to me, really resonates. And to commentate, that's an interesting one. I tend to like the subcontinent purely because, and I'm sort of tossing up between Sri Lanka or India purely because I just find it such a fascinating place to visit. Every day it's nearly like it's an event. It's very different from the day before. And the people are so warm and welcoming, and cricket just runs through their veins. So you always feel, cricket is so important to the centre of their life, and to bring that to them as a broadcaster is something special.
Now, you mentioned Lords, which reminds me of the next bit that I want to get from the two of you, which is that the first cricket match was televised from Lords this week in 1938, 82 years ago. I had to double check this because I couldn't believe that that's how long back cricket broadcasting goes. Of course, you could only watch this within a 20-kilometer radius of the Alexandra Palace in northern London, which is where the signal was sent out from. And then there was a big break during the Second World War from 39 until 45, and it resumed in 46. So it's a special week as far as broadcasting cricket, and particularly TV broadcasting of cricket, is concerned. Have you got a favorite moment on mic, a special occasion that you were lucky enough to witness and to commentate on, something that you will always treasure? Let's start with you, Pommie Mbangwa.
Elma Kapelma. I have... Yeah, an occasion. So in the 2003 World Cup is when I sort of made my foray properly into commentary and broadcast. There was a game, Australia against Zimbabwe in Bulawayo, and the reason I remember it, apart from Andy Blichnote smashing the ball here and there, him and Heath Streak had a partnership that was really good. Australia were comfortable in the game until he came in and he smashed 50 or 60 and got Zim to 250. In fact, I think he got out, I remember the court and bowled, Brett Lee taking a sharp catch because he was smashing it and getting rid of him. And he was man of the match, Andy Blichnote. But the reason I remember the game with regard to broadcast is because Richie Beno was there, Tony Gregg, Mikey Holding, and if I remember correctly, Tony Cozier might have been there as well, or I might be mixing games. So as you start up in broadcasting and you kind of end up in this room with these legends, you're sort of thinking, well, what am I doing here? You know, I'm in the wrong room. And the day kind of played out like that. You know, I'd be in there on comms, and I don't know if I can talk. I remember my first stick with Richie Beno. I just wouldn't grab the microphone. I just thought, there's no ways I should be. I'll let the great man go, you know, away you go, carry on, you know, please. Can I talk? Nah, I can't talk now. Just please carry on, you know, and so it got me started, but it's also where I learned, like, you can't be like any of them, right? You got to do who you are. And it gave me just, you know, the desire for that little bit more with regard to broadcasting. I mean, yeah, and so, yeah, that's why I remember it. Not necessarily for the cricket or for anything else happening. So, yeah, I'll never forget it. It sticks in my mind.
Tom Moody?
Yeah, I think mine would have to be the 2011 World Cup final in Mumbai, where India beat Sri Lanka. Again, I was fortunate enough to be a part of that team with some, you know, very experienced commentators, and I just remember the occasion because it was nearly like the whole city of Mumbai had just gone to another level, if that was ever possible. The capacity of the stadium there is only 42,000, but you would have thought there was 442,000 people there. So there's a real buzz. And when Dhoni hit that six to win the match, you know, it was nearly like the whole of India lifted with that six.
Dhoni finishes off in style. A magnificent strike into the crowd. India lift the World Cup after 28 years. The parties start in the dressing room, and it's an Indian captain who's been absolutely magnificent.
It was a significant moment for obviously India, who were growing into this force that we know they are now in the game. And it was the beginning of that particular chapter for them, which is still playing out. And the other part of it for me was, obviously I've got a sentimental soft spot for Sri Lanka, having coached them. So a lot of the players playing in that final I knew very, very well, and were, you know, and still are, you know, good friends. So there was some real emotional connection for me in that game. And to have the privilege to call that game and call it right at the end as well, with a few other commentators. I think Ravi Shastri was on with me at the end, and having to sort of talk through the emotions of winning a World Cup also brought, I suppose, some old memories of mine. So the goosebumps were up, and obviously the heartbeat was up and the adrenaline was going. It was just an incredible moment. And to cap it off, I remember walking back, because for love or money, you couldn't get a cab or a bus or anything back to the hotel. And the hotel's not a long walk, but I walked back, and I never forget that walk back. It was about a 20-minute walk through the crowd celebrating with firecrackers going off, and, you know, whistling and singing and dancing. It was just, to see the joy in people's faces was something special.
I've got goosebumps, and I wasn't even there. Just by your explanation of it, it sounds amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. We are opening the floor now to the fans. We do this every week. We give you the center of the stage here on Cricket Inside Out. And thank you so much to everyone who participates every week and send through their questions. Anurag Pani wants to know, Pommie, do you see Zimbabwe cricket improve in the coming few years?
Yeah, I hope. I continually hope that things will get better and better and better. And yeah, the hope never fades. From a realistic perspective, it would take a few years, because at present, what seems to be happening is there's the cost, which is the national players, which you can sort of sustain because the guys have played and they go off and they play in other countries, and they can kind of reconvene every time there's a series that's going to go on. That doesn't give you the full picture of what's happened. I think it's very much a case of trying to resuscitate the whole cricket system, where you can have a knock-on effect from schools to clubs to first class to then A side and national side. Under 19s were here, and Tom and I were working, and as you were, Elma, were working on that, the guys were here. And so what you tend to get is the fruit of the trees all the time. So an under 19 side being here, the national side having a tour, and I think their tour against Australia is going to come off because of the current situation. So yeah, it's a few years down the line. I saw on the wires, you were talking about social media earlier, that they have, the Zimbabwe Cricket Board and organization have got rid of their debt that they had, which was a substantial one. I retweeted with the hope that there might be conversation with regard to that, but there wasn't. There was all going, oh, wow, well done. It happened, wow, and yes, well done. And that would go some way into improving things.
Bhargav Sai asks, Tom, what do you reckon of the talent pool coming out of the IPL and the money the young players are making?
Well, the talent pool's phenomenal. We know that the IPL has been a very, very a good vehicle for Indian talent to be showcased. It's probably the perfect opportunity for them to not only on India's eyes but the world's eyes, to show off their skills, but be around and play around some of the world's best players. So the IPL has been a real win for Indian cricket and that young talent, because they just get fast tracked through the system. And there's just so many talented players. Pommie mentioned the under-19s. We saw a lot of the under-19 cricketers in South Africa just recently, and there's some seriously talented young cricketers amongst them that I'm sure will be making their debut at some time in the next couple of years in that Indian side. With regards to the money, it's an interesting one. The players aren't at fault for what they get bidded to in an auction. It's not their fault that they can earn up to $500,000 as a 18 or a 20-year-old. It's purely the system of the auction. It's the money that's in the game. It's the television rights that the IPL attracts that then filters down to the franchises and the players. So I just hope that, which I'm sure they do in most cases, that they're just getting advised in the right way in how to manage that, and also remain focused on what the most important thing, and that is the bat and the ball.
That's all we have time for this week on Cricket Inside Out. Thank you so much for always bringing so much value to the conversation, Tom Moody, and a very, very happy birthday once again to Pommie Mbangwa. It's so special that you said yes to do this, even though you're actually supposed to be eating birthday cake.
I'm going to go and do that now.
And today, of course, another big celebration going on just in the background of all of this is the fact that Australia and New Zealand was announced as the host destination for the 2023 Women's Football World Cup. That FIFA announcement just coming through a little earlier. Now, I'm sure the ICC's amazing Women's T20 final that filled the MCG maybe invoked some FOMO in football circles. So congratulations to those countries. And on that note, we'll let the world champion team, Australia, take us out with this message to the world.
Congratulations Australia and New Zealand on winning the rights to host the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup.
Australia is an awesome place to host a World Cup.
It was unbelievable to see 86,000 people flock to the MCG for our Cricket World Cup.
We were really lucky to have 86,000 people flock to the MCG.
So hopefully all the teams get to experience something similar, especially our Matildas. Good luck to all teams in their preparation and can't wait to see you down under in 2023.